All right, the T-Wolves take on the Hornets, 5 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Friday, November 25th, 2022. Minnesota's -5, totals 225.5. And if you like the Hornets and an upset victory in this one, they're plus $1.50 for some money line cash. And just a reminder, guys, we're 6-1 in our last 7 NBA tier package bets on my website. And I'll include a link for you in the description section below. I currently have over 630 members who are signed up and active on that site right now. Now, the Hornets are going to work without Dennis Smith and LaMelo Ball. Gordon Hayward's also questionable with a shoulder. Meanwhile, as a team, the Hornets have had a tough time getting the W recently. They're just 2-8 straight up in their last 10. And they've done a real poor job shooting the basketball. These guys are in the bottom 3 in offensive field goal percentage. They're also making just 31% of their three-pointers. They're facing a Minnesota club who's one of the best teams in the game in guarding the field goal. These guys are currently in the top 3 in defensive field goal percentage. When it comes to offensive production, Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, they're averaging 21 points a night respectively. And of course, Big Rudy Gobert, he's still bringing down over a dozen rebounds a game. Now, injury-wise, Prince and McLaughlin are out for Minnesota. Anderson's questionable. When it comes to the total, 4 out of Minnesota's last 7 got over the number. Meanwhile, Charlotte went 4-3 to the over in their last 7. I'm going to lean toward Minnesota, -5, over 225.5. Next ball game, Sixers, Magic, 7 o'clock East. Orlando's the 2-point favorite at home, totals 213. And even though the Sixers are all banged up right now, I'm not sure the Magic can take advantage of that. They lost 4 out of their last 5, and they're having a tough time getting on the scoreboard. These guys are currently in the bottom 10 in the league in points per contest. They're also facing a Philly team who's giving up just 106 points a game, and they currently lead the league in guarding the three-pointer. Now, you're probably wondering who's going to do the scoring here tonight. Well, when it comes to offensive production, Tobias Harris is scoring over 15 points a game, and he's also averaging 6 rebounds. And of course, George Niang, he's making over 44% of his three-pointers. Now, injury-wise, Embiid, Harden, and Maxey are out for the Sixers. Meanwhile, for the Magic, Wagner, Banchero, Okike, and Carter are questionable for them. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, the Magic saw 5 out of their last 7 stay under the line. Meanwhile, Philly went 60% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Philadelphia, +2, under 213. Next matchup, Blazers, Knicks, 7:30 p.m. East. New York is -4 at MSG, totals 219. And New York's doing a nice job of grabbing offensive boards this year. They're in the top 3 in offensive rebounding, and they're led by Julius Randle, who's grabbing nearly 9 rebounds a night. Now, Randle's also one of the team's leading scorers with 20 a game. Of course, Jalen Brunson, he's also averaging 20 points a night himself. Now, the Knicks are facing a Portland team on the other side who's still going to work without Dame Lillard. And I'll tell you this much, even when Portland's mostly healthy, well, the Blazers are currently in the bottom 10 in the league in points per game. Now, total-wise, Portland went 60% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, New York saw 6 out of their last 10 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward New York, -4, under 219. Next matchup, it is going to be Kings at the Celtics, and that'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Boston is -8 with the total at 237.5. There we go. And even though the Celtics are favored at home, they really haven't been great grabbing rebounds. They're in the bottom 10 in both offensive and defensive boards. When it comes to covering the number, the Celtics failed to cover recently against the likes of Chicago and Oklahoma City. They're facing a Kings team who won 8 out of their last 10. And they rank in the top 3 in defensive boards themselves. When it comes to offensive production, no one's averaging more points a game than the Kings right now. De'Aaron Fox is dropping over 25 points a game. He's making just about 40% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, Kevin Huerter, he's knocking down over 49% of his shots from beyond the arc. He has been automatic from long range. Now, total-wise, Sacramento went 70% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Boston saw 6 out of their last 10 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean towards Sacramento +8, keeping that one close, over 237.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Nets at the Pacers, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Brooklyn's the 3-point favorite on the road, totals 232.5. Now, the Nets are having a tough time this year underneath the basket. They're in the bottom 3 in offensive boards, bottom 10 in defensive boards. When it comes to guarding the three-pointer, the Nets are currently in the bottom 3 in defensive three-point percentage. Now, they're facing an Indy team who has little issue getting points themselves. These guys are actually in the top 10 in the NBA in scoring. Tyrese Halliburton's averaging just about 20 points a game, and he's making nearly 40% of his three balls. And speaking of three-pointers, Benny Mathurin's knocking down 43% of his shots from long range. When it comes to the injury report, Nembhard and Jackson are questionable for the Pacers. Meanwhile, for Brooklyn, Curry's questionable, Watanabe's out. Now, total-wise, Brooklyn went 4-2 to the over in their last 6. Meanwhile, Indiana saw overs against the likes of Charlotte, Denver, and New Orleans. I'm going to lean toward Indy +3, over 232.5. Next ball game, Wizards, Heat, 8 o'clock East. Miami's -3.5 on their home court, totals 212. And even though the Heat's favored in this one, their roster is still pretty banged up. Jimmy Butler's out, Robinson, Strus, Hero, Vincent, Adebayo, and did I say Hero? Yeah, Hero. They're all listed as questionable. So once again, Robinson, Strus, Hero, Vincent, Adebayo, they're all listed as questionable. Meanwhile, as a team, Miami took the loss in 4 out of their last 5. And they're having a tough time getting to the basket. They're in the bottom 3 in scoring, and they have one of the lower team field goal percentages in the East. They're facing a Washington team who plays pretty tough on the defensive end of the court themselves. The Wizards are currently in the top 3 in guarding the field goal. When it comes to offensive production, Kristaps Porzingis is averaging 20 points a game along with 8 rebounds. Now, when it comes to shooting the 3-ball, Corey Kispert's knocking down 45% of his shots from beyond the arc. Now, injury-wise, Bradley Beal's out. Davis, Morris, and Hachimura are questionable. When it comes to the total, Washington went 60% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, the Heat on the other side, they saw unders against the likes of Minnesota, Cleveland, and this very Washington team. I'm going to lean toward the Wizards +3.5, under 212. Next ball game I have for you, it is going to be Hawks at the Rockets, and that'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Atlanta's -7 on the road, totals 233. Now, the Hawks got the W in 6 out of their last 10, and they're doing a nice job of offensive rebounding. These guys are currently in the top 5 in offensive boards per contest. When it comes to scoring, Trae Young's averaging a team-best 27 points a game, along with 9 assists. Trae's actually second in the league in assists per contest. Meanwhile, teammate DeJounte Murray, he's scoring 20 points a game himself, along with 6 rebounds. Now, they're facing a 3-win Houston team who's allowing 116 points a game, and they rank amongst the worst in the West in defending the field goal. When it comes to offensive production, well, these guys have the lowest field goal percentage right now in the NBA. When it comes to the injury report, Green and Christopher are questionable. Sengun is doubtful. Now, total-wise, 5 out of Houston's last 8 did get over the number. Meanwhile, Atlanta saw overs against the likes of Toronto, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia. I'm going to lean toward the Hawks, -7, over 233. Next ball game, it is going to be Pels Grizzlies, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Memphis is -2.5, totals 227. And even though they're favored in this one, the Grizzlies lost 4 out of their last 5, and they really haven't been great against the point spread lately. Out of their last 9 ball games, the Grizz covered in just 33% of those contests. When it comes to shooting the basketball, these guys really haven't been great with the ball in their hands either. They're actually in the bottom 10 in field goal percentage, and they're dead last in shooting from the stripe. Now, they're facing a Pelicans team on the other side of things who actually got the W in 5 out of their last 6 themselves. And in addition to that, they do a pretty decent job on defense. These guys are currently in the top 3 in guarding the three-pointer. And they're one of the better defensive rebounding teams in the Western Conference. Jonas Valanciunas, he's leading the pack with nearly double-digit rebounds a game. The big man's also averaging 13 points a night. Of course, Zion Williamson, he's currently leading the team in scoring with 23 points a game. And speaking of scoring, well, the Pels are currently in the top 3 in the league in team points per contest. Now, injury-wise, McCollum's out, Murphy's questionable. Meanwhile, for Memphis, Concher and Williams are questionable for them. Aldamas is doubtful. When it comes to the total, Memphis saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the line. Meanwhile, the Pelicans saw overs against the likes of the Spurs, Chicago, and Indiana. I'm going to lean toward the Pelicans plus 2.5, over 227. Next matchup I have for you, it is going to be Cavaliers taking on the Bucks, and that'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Milwaukee's the 4-point favorite at home, totals 215.5. Now, the Bucks actually have had a tough time covering the number lately. They're just 1-5 against the spread in their last 6. And they're really not doing a great job shooting the basketball. They're currently in the bottom 10 in offensive field goal percentage, bottom 10 in shooting the 3-ball. They're also facing a Cleveland squad who plays some really tough defense themselves. These guys are in the top 5 in fewest points allowed. And they're also leading the league in defensive boards. Jared Allen, he's grabbing 11 rebounds a night along with 14 points. And of course, Donovan Mitchell, he's getting a team best 30 points a game. He's actually 6th in the NBA right now in scoring. Now, injury-wise, LeVert and Love are out for Cleveland. When it comes to the total, the Cavs saw their last 3 straight stay under the line, 5-2 to the under in their last 7. Meanwhile, Milwaukee went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Cleveland plus 4, under 215.5. Next contest, Bulls at the Thunder, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Chicago's the 3-point favorite in Oklahoma City, totals 232. Now, the Bulls did drop 6 out of their last 9. They've struggled a bit on defense. They're in the bottom 5 in guarding the 3-pointer right now. They're also having a tough time defending the field goal as well. They're facing an OKC team who's having little issue getting on the scoreboard themselves. OKC's in the top 5 in scoring. They're also led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's getting 31 points a game. Now, Shai's actually 3rd in the NBA in points per contest. And teammate Aleksej Pokusevski, he's making 42% of his 3 balls. He's been a good deep threat. Almost want to see him shoot more, but it looks like he's healthy and ready to go here today. Now, total-wise, OKC saw their last 8 straight get over the line. Meanwhile, Chicago saw overs versus the likes of Milwaukee, New Orleans, and Boston. I'm going to lean toward OKC plus 3, over 232. Next contest, it is going to be Lakers at the Spurs. And that'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern start time. The LA Lakers are the 3-point favorite, totals 232.5. And even though LeBron's still day-to-day with that groin injury, I do still think the Lakers can get the W here. They got the W in 3 out of their last 4. And that does include a 31-point victory over the Spurs just a few days ago. Anthony Davis is scoring over 26 points a night. He's also averaging a dozen boards. Meanwhile, Lonnie Walker is scoring 16 points a game himself. They're facing a Spurs team who lost their last 6 straight. And they give up more points a game than any other team in the league. These guys are also dead last in guarding the 3-pointer. And they're letting their opponents make 51% of their field goals against them. Now, injury-wise, McDermott, Hall, and Collins, they're all listed as questionable for San Antonio. Richardson has been downgraded to doubtful. Meanwhile, for the Lakers on the other side, once again, LeBron is questionable for them. Might actually be a good night for him to take a day off. San Antonio really can't slow down anybody on the defensive end of the court. Now, total-wise, the Lakers went 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, the Spurs saw overs against the likes of the Kings, Memphis, and Portland. I don't know, maybe LeBron should play. You know, this is one of the games you should win, so go out there and win it. But anyway, I think the Lakers should be able to get the job done. Give me the Lakers minus 3, over 232.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Pistons at the Suns, 9 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Phoenix is minus 12.5, totals 225. And despite the absence of Landry Shamet and Chris Paul tonight, I do still think this is a manageable number for the Suns. They went 6-3 against the spread in their last 9. They're playing some really tough defense this year. They're allowing only 107 points a night, and they're in the top 10 in defensive boards. DeAndre Ayton's grabbing 8.5 rebounds a night, 14 points a game as well for the center. Meanwhile, Devin Booker scoring a team-best 27 points a game. Now, they're facing a Detroit squad who really doesn't rebound well themselves, and they're simply giving up just way too many points. Detroit's allowing 118 points a game, and they're in the bottom 5 in guarding the field goal. Now, injury-wise, Diallo, Hayes, and Ivy are questionable. Meanwhile, for the Suns, once again, Shamet and Paul are out. When it comes to the total, Phoenix saw 4 out of their last 7 get over the number. Meanwhile, Detroit went 70% to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Phoenix minus 12.5, over 225. Next matchup, Jazz at the Warriors, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Golden State's the 8-point favorite, totals 239. And because of their poor defensive play this year, this does feel like a pretty big number for Golden State. They're allowing over 117 points a night, and they're one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the West. They're facing a Utah team who loves to score points themselves. They're in the top 5 in points per game. They're also doing a nice job shooting from long distance. Malik Beasley, he's making 42% of his shots from beyond the arc. Lauri Markkanen, he's also leading the team with 22 points a game. Injury-wise, Bolmaro, Juzang, and Abaji, they're listed as questionable for Utah. When it comes to the total, the Jazz saw their last 4 straight get over the line, 7-2 to the over in their last 9. Meanwhile, Golden State saw overs against the likes of the Clippers, Rockets, and the Suns. I'm going to lean toward the Jazz plus 8, over 239. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Nuggets at the Clippers, 10:30 Eastern tip-off. Denver's the 3.5-point favorite on the road, totals 218 and a hook. Now, the Nuggets are currently the best three-point shooting team in the game. They're making over 40% of their three-pointers as a team. They're also in the top 3 in shooting from the field. Nikola Jokic, he's scoring a team-best 22 points a night. Meanwhile, Michael Porter Jr., he's drilling over 42% of his shots from beyond the arc. Now, they're facing a Clipper team on the other side who's still going to work without Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Luke Kennard. A lot of big-time points you're leaving on the table there. Those are some pretty good scores. And even when they're mostly healthy, the Clippers are averaging fewer points a game than any other team in the NBA. They've been really bad on the offensive end of the court. Now, total-wise, the Clippers went 70% to the under in their last 10. No real surprise there. Meanwhile, Denver saw 6 out of their last 10 stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Denver minus 3.5, under 218 and a hook. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. I like Minnesota minus 5, over 225.5. Philadelphia plus 2, under 213. And one final reminder, guys, we're 6-1 in our last 7 NBA tier package bets on my website. Give me the Knicks minus 4, under 219. Sacramento plus 8, over 237.5. Indiana plus 3, over 232 and a hook. Washington plus 3.5, under 212. Atlanta minus 7, over 233. New Orleans Pelicans plus 2.5, over 227. Cleveland plus 4, under 215.5. Oklahoma City plus 3, over 232. LA Lakers minus 3, over 232.5. Phoenix Suns minus 12.5, over 225. Utah Jazz plus 8, over 239. With my next and final free pick, give me Denver minus 3.5, under 218.5 points.